I'm Steve Fowler from the Occidental Center for the Arts, and I'm here with Patrick Fanning, one of my cohorts out there. Both of us are volunteers there, and we've been working on the project together for some years. And it's a pleasure to interview Patrick about his new book and to tell us about the literary events that have been occurring at the center and the new class that he's teaching. So, Patrick, why are you dressed as you are? It looks to me this is historical.
It is, or at least it's alternative historical. So yeah, I'm dressed as the way a writer of the 19th century, around 1879, might be dressed. And my book is called Infidels Abroad. And it's an alternative history of Sonoma County and environs. I started writing this about 5 years ago when I was doing a lot of traveling around the county, painting landscapes, doing watercolors and so on, and learning a little bit about the history. And I've always thought that the history of California was frankly a little boring. It's Native Americans for quite a long time, then it's the missions, and then it's the gold rush, and nothing wrong with that. But as I was looking at different sites around the county, I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if the Spanish had retained possession of California? And wouldn't it be interesting if the Russians had stayed in the northern part of the state around Fort Ross? And if the Americans had never been involved at all, what would it be like? And
maybe the Indians got a little bit better break than the
exactly.
genocide that occurred.
If perhaps the mission system had been just a tiny bit more benevolent.
Yeah.
And then I just found myself imagining what might have happened different. And around that time, a friend of mine invited me to join a novel writing group, and I learned that Mark Twain had actually given a lecture once in Petaluma about the Sandwich Islands. And he's probably
the Sandwich Islands
being Hawaii.
Being Hawaii, right.
And he's my favorite author of all time, and I just thought it would be great to write a novel in which he's one of the characters. And I am a painter, and my favorite painter is John Singer Sargent, who comes from the same era. He was alive at the same time as Twain.
Do we know that he ever came to California?
He spent some time in California as well. So eventually I started writing a novel in which Mark Twain and John Singer Sargent come to visit two separate countries that are in California. One is Alta California. It's a Spanish republic, fairly democratic, and the other is Rossland. It has the territory north of the Russian River. It's Russian. It's more of an empire. There's a czar who has a winter palace in Sacramento, but they call it Sakrametska in my world.
I love
and
it.
I've just had a great time putting this book together. It is illustrated. I decided, since I was changing anything I wanted, I made Mark Twain an amateur photographer. So there are a lot of historical photographs purportedly taken by Twain and reinterpreted to fit my story.
That's a good idea because it allowed you to show scenes other than the drawn scenes. Yes.
Right. And then I have a lot of sketches and paintings and so on in the book also that are in the style of John Singer Sargent, as if he had sketched them while he was traveling around. And they get into various adventures with a spy and the czar.
A beautiful
and
spy.
So on, a beautiful spy, yes, a lady spy.
Yes.
And
it's a wonderful character. I've read the book. And how much research did you have to do? First of all, taking on the form of the novel is that it's in the form of letters or articles, all written by the various characters, mostly by the painter, John Singer Sargent, to his mother and his friends in Paris, and then Mark Twain writing to his editor and also, I believe, to his mother as well. And you have to sound like these men did. Mark Twain is a challenge. I mean,
That's true.
So did you do a lot of research?
Well, I did read a lot of Mark Twain. And occasionally I would just out and out steal a phrase or a sentence or a short paragraph and cram it in there as a sort of a little hidden treasure for people to figure out what might be a string of his actual words, and I just practiced and practiced. Fortunately, since it's an alternative history, Mark Twain doesn't have to be quite as good a writer, and nor does Sargent have to be quite as good a painter, so that gives me an out. But I had a whole lot of fun. I learned a lot about both artists, and a lot about that kind of 19th century epistolary novel where a lot of the action is revealed through letters and correspondence. And that was a lot of fun.
It's a very good book, and the drawings are excellent, and this is Mark Twain on the cover here.
Right.
And that's part of a full-length portrait that you finally see at the end of the book. Is that portrait in existence somewhere?
It is in existence. It's in my studio. I might drag it out and bring it to my book launch at the Occidental Center for the Arts.
I hope so. Well, let's
I'll
get
do a little
to
show
the
and
book
tell.
launch. When is this going to happen?
It's coming up in February, Friday the 22nd, at 7 p.m. And this is part of a really fun series of book launches that we've been having, one a month for some time now. They're free events, which is part of our mission, as you know, to have affordable and free cultural happenings there.
Right.
Usually there's a reading, there's a question and answer period, there's often some kind of show and tell or discussion of the creative process. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, there have been some unusual book launches. For instance, we had a painter, Diane Sania, who filled the entire auditorium with her large, extremely graphic paintings of female figures for her book launch. And then I remember when our friend Chris Rebley, who also has a new book out and who did a book launch at the Art Center, actually sang a few songs because he's also a singer of and a composer. So they're not dull. We've had poets read their work, and it's a great tradition at the Art Center. Now I guess it's been going on for more than a year, hasn't it?
Yeah, as we're talking here in the beginning of 2013.
Yeah. So everyone should come to the Art Center. It's unusual that it's an evening book launch. They're usually on Sunday afternoons, but this is Friday evening, August 22nd at 7 p.m.
February 22nd.
I'm sorry.
Right. Not August.
Wow.
Right. Well, you know, we've been trying different experiments. A lot of the Sunday afternoon slots are now taken up with our local talent shows,
that's right.
which have been increasingly popular.
Yeah.
A chance for usually musical groups to come and do their thing.
Well, now you're also teaching a class at the Art Center, aren't you, Patrick?
Yes, actually, with Chris Rebley, who you mentioned, we started up a 90-day novel class, and we have 9 students currently enrolled, and we're all, including the teachers, trying to write a novel, a first draft of 50,000 words in 90 days.
50,000.
So it's quite a challenge.
What's the math there? 90 into 50,000. That's almost 1,000 words a day. Let's say 500 words a day.
Yeah,
That's pretty ambitious.
It's been really rewarding so far. Today, I think we're on day 31, and so far, most of us are on schedule. Some of us have lagged behind, but we're having a lot of fun. We get together every couple of weeks and compare notes and swap emails during the interim.
Well, it's great that we're able to offer this because now we have new spaces that we purchased just this last year for classrooms and other commercial ventures and other art ventures. And so there's a figure drawing class in that same room. And then, of course, you and Chris are teaching this novel writing class. I guess there's no real, there's no jumping in the middle of this. If you weren't there from the beginning, you don't want to try to write a 50,000 word novel in the last week.
No, not really. I suspect we'll do it again, though. People should probably stay tuned to the website, perhaps, occidentalcenterforthearts.org. We have a few people on the notification list already who want to know if we do it again.
That's important that the website has the information on that and other classes and all the events coming up at the Art Center. And I think the Art Center has events planned already well into May for this year. So there's always something interesting going on there. And and I know you also taught painting. So as a watercolorist, I remember when you were pretty preoccupied with watercolor. It was a few years back. And you taught watercoloring. So do you feel this is a calling that you have? How are you
Yeah,
feeling
I
about
still
teaching?
paint. I don't teach or exhibit right now, but I still paint. I'm done with my illustrations for the book, and so I've been back out in the landscape doing a little bit, mostly for my own entertainment. But I'm getting more interested again. Part of it is the art gallery shows that we've been having at the Art Center. I've had a couple of pieces in some of those, and
I've seen them.
started getting me reacquainted with the art crowd in Sonoma County. So it's another great resource.
Well, that's one thing about the Art Center that I think is unusual, and that's how many artists are involved in the creation of this project. It seems that almost everyone who has come forward from the community to work on it is an artist, or wishes to be an artist, and so it's not an elite crowd that of art appreciators, which I think is quite usual for art centers when they start in larger cities, for instance. In Occidental, it's sort of a grassroots idea that just grew right up out of the old Harmony School campus, and the gift of the buildings by Orrin Thiessen, a local developer. And so we've been able to build it from the ground up. And I know, Patrick, you have been very active in the physical work of the Art Center and ran the facilities committee for quite a while. And I'm sure, and we're all very proud of what we've been able to do out there with this, an auditorium that's acoustically sound, and a gallery that where at least 6 shows a year are nicely displayed, and a comfortable venue and lots of parking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and largely done by volunteer work. We have contractors and masons and cooks and bottle washers, and everybody lends a hand. So
Insurance
we do have
agents.
a good time. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And the local restaurants have been sending Italian food down for our lunches. I remember a few years back when we didn't have any money, and we looked around and we decided what we did have was human capital. So we started the Human Capital Campaign.
Right. Right.
Which is such a huge part of most nonprofits, and not properly kept track of in our case. And in many cases, all those hours that are put in, really tens of thousands of hours it takes.
Yeah.
So are you working on a novel as you teach the course? Are you going to knock out a 50,000 word novel?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to lead by example, and so is Chris, my co-teacher. So we'll see. The one I'm working on next is a kind of a science fiction story about life extension and immortality and politics and so on. So can't say too much more about it because I don't know how it's going to end yet.
Life extension, that's a tempting subject.
Yeah, we'd all like to get some of that, I'm sure.
Well, anyway, we're above ground, and we're working on an art center out in Occidental. And this is Steve Fowler saying, please come out to see us.